After walking through the courtyard again and looking more at the surrounding school and the giant clock tower that dominated his view, wow, compensating for something? He made it back to his room and tried the door, but found it was locked. He looked at the strange lock that was on the door. It had no obvious handle or other way to force his way in. It didn't even have a key card, like something of the hotels on his home planet. Growling, he knocked on the door multiple times without any reply. Kira must have gone out somewhere, leaving Sid being the only person in the room. And he was charging. Damn it. Well, I'm not going to wait. He reached down and pulled out his wingman, raised it to the door, and blasted the lock off. After he fired, he casually used the new handle he had created in the door to pull it open. Before he could walk in, the door from across the hall opened, and someone stuck their head out. He had mid-length blonde hair and was wearing what could only be described as medieval armor. Was that gunfire? Yeah, sorry. I forgot my key thingy. So I took matters into my own hands. He replied while loading a fresh clip into the pistol. Okay, I've had that problem before. You could have just gone and asked the teacher. Yeah, well, that would have been boring. Can't have a boring life, can we? Guess not. My name is John, by the way. You must be new here. Yeah, I got enrolled yesterday as a last-minute entry. I'll be joining the second years, though you can call me Demon. Demon, hey, nice name. So you're second year then? I guess I'll see you in class. Yeah, sure. See ya. He chatted as he closed the door behind him. When he did, he walked over to his scroll, turned it on, and immediately called Miss Goodwitch. When she responded, he asked how the hell he was meant to open the door. She replied that he was meant to wave a scroll in front of the door to make it open. He facepalmed and told her about what had happened. After a few seconds of silence, she told him it would be replaced by the next day, then cut the connection. Okay then, time to finally relax. He looked over at the clock that sat on the desk and saw that it was about 4 in the afternoon. He sat on his bed, activated Sid, and set him to guard mode. The instructions that he gave were standard. Shoot whoever walked within a meter of him, in the kneecaps. He also decided to give anyone the benefit of the doubt, so Sid would at least give them a warning before he shot. After that, he fell asleep, hoping that he would at least have a better experience the next day. At about 10 a.m. the next morning, he woke up to see Kira and Rosaline were both in the room playing cards. When they looked up to see Demon rise from his slumber. You're an ass, you know that? Said Rosaline as her face turned to a scowl. Yes, you keep telling me that. You set him to shoot us, screamed Kira as she threw a card like a shuriken. Yes, I did, he said as the card just bounced off his helmet. And? Fine. I'm sorry. Happy? Apology accepted. Now could you please turn it off? With a groan, he deactivated Sid and slumped down in the corner again. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can manage to convince the headmaster dude to get my stuff back from the forest. Without a second word, he just walked out the door, saying that it was repaired, and managed to remember to grab his scroll. He requested a meeting with Ozpin and told them to meet him in the middle of the courtyard, next to the fountain. After getting there, he waited about 5 minutes. He saw Ozpin walking towards him from the clock tower. When he made it there, they shook hands before Ozpin addressed him. So, young man, what seems to be the problem? Well, when I came here in my dropship, I left a few of my supplies back in the forest. I was wondering if I could borrow a couple of bullheads to collect them. And what would you classify as a couple? What's the carrying capacity of one? From what I last checked, it was around 6 tons. Well, I'll need around 6. What could you possibly need 32 tons of lit capacity for? Well, you know how I told you about the Titan Wars? Well, I kind of brought 4 along with me, as well as my personal command center. How can I trust that you will not use these to take over the school? I'll give you my word. The last bargaining chip I have. What's the use of going to a school that's just a pile of rubble? Okay then, for the next couple hours you have access to 6 bullheads. They'll be waiting for you at the landing pads within the hour. Good day, young man. And with that, the headmaster walked off. Time to get my Titans back, spoke Demon as he made his way to the landing pads. Okay. I'm completely guilty of this as well, and like every other, like everyone else, but when it comes to Ozpin, it seems that every OC, be it crossover or normal, whatever, they always get special treatment from him. Like I said, I'm completely guilty of this. But I don't know, it kind of still bothers me, even, I do it, I don't know why I do it, but it just bothers me, you know? That they, we're not special. Our characters aren't special, well, there's a reason that they get special treatment, but it's kind of, never mind. But, obviously there's always going to be a reason they get special treatment. Demon, obviously, he's from a different universe. So obviously he'd get a bit... I'm just going to shut up now. Okay. Back to the story. 2 hours later. You could have dropped it a bit softer, yelled Demon at the 4 bullheads carrying the pod. He had made sure that it was dropped off near the back of the school so that no prying eyes could see would be able to see the death-dealing Titans. The other 2 bullheads had to drop his Demon Titan and the Ogre chassis off next to it. They disconnected, and without so much as a how do you do, they flew off back to the landing pads. Thanks, he yelled after them as he went over to inspect the damage done. The 2 Titans that were dropped off were fine, but when he went inside the pod, it was utter chaos. His Strider and the Atlas Titan were fine, but everything else was strewn all over the floor from the violent ride. The guns and attachments were all over the floor. His bike was on its side. The Spectres were on the floor, and all his surveillance equipment was broken. Instead of instantly trying to get everything back in order, he quickly sprinted and checked on the globe-like object under the cloth. After he found that there had been no damage done, the next hour was spent putting everything back in working order. As he finished putting the rest of the guns in their respective racks, he looked down at the watch in his HUD. 5:42. Well, that took longer than expected. Stupid pilots. He called the other 2 Titans inside the pod so that there would be no one asking what giant robots were doing in the middle of a school, and went to lock the door. Before he could, the red girl from the day earlier stuck her head through the door. Oh, cool giant robots, she screamed, eyes wide with awe. Ah, cool giant robots, she screamed, eyes wide with awe. Get out, he roared with anger before turning the lights off and slamming the door behind him. What's wrong? Oh, are you like a secret agent or something? She questioned as her impossibly wide eyes proceeded to grow even larger. No, I'm part of the military. Now would you please forget you ever saw that? He pleaded. Why? Because it's very sensitive information. Only Ozpin knows about this. And it should have stayed that way, okay? Sure. As long as I get to look at your gun. She grinned, while staring at the LMG he had strapped to his back. If that's all it takes, then sure, he said, while unshouldering it and handing it over. She practically began to drool over the machine. As she checked it over and looked, she dropped the mag and swooned over the bullets. Are these 50 caliber bullets in an LMG? Sure is. These are 50 caliber gas-jacketed explosive rounds. The LMG can be fitted to fire absolutely anything from a 20 cal up. It also has a CQB activated combat system. The moment that anything gets within 2 meters of its little laser on the side, the firing system switches to a faster firing method with increased spread, he said, quite proud as she looked it over. What's gas jacketed? She asked rather innocently. The moment they impact, a small layer under the outer coating of the bullets explodes, causing the outer layer to shatter and turning it to shrapnel, much like armor-piercing rounds. Then, when most of the damage is done, a small timed explosive within the bullet sets off, turning the rest of the bullets into shrapnel. That is awesome! But is it just a gun? What do you mean, just a gun? He said, quite offended at her words. Well, my weapon, the Crescent Rose, is a sight that transforms into a high-impact, fully customizable sniper rifle. He stared for a few moments. Okay then. Well then, if you like DMRs, then wait here for a moment. And don't come in. He turned and walked back inside the pod, ensuring to lock the door behind him. A couple minutes later, he walked out holding his amped Kraber AP. When he walked back out, she instantly dropped the LMG and began grabbing for the Kraber. Oh, it's so cool! I can't do RWBY. I can't do RWBY. Like, in the slightest. As he handed it over, she sighted through the scope and began checking over the loading system. As she pulled out the clip, she stared puzzled at the bullets. What type of ammunition is this? This, little one, is a high-impact explosive 905 caliber shell, capable of puncturing through 6 inches of solid titanium. It's beautiful. She whimpered as he swore he saw tears coming from her eyes. If you want, I could use it next time I fight. Yes! She practically screamed, causing him to recoil from the sound. He reached over and grabbed back his 2 weapons, shut the door, and began walking back to his dorm with RWBY in tow. And now, 3 minutes of me trying to say the word abruptly. Sorry for scaring you back in the forest, he stated rather abruptly. Fuck me. This has been Epic Narration Fails with Powerhouse 616. I hope you enjoyed. Sorry for scaring you back in the forest, he stated rather abruptly, causing the small girl to pause for a few seconds. Yeah, it's fine, she said while having a small smile plastered on her face. Ying says thank you as well. So that's her name. Sure she does. If she did, then she would say it to me now, and you wouldn't have to. I'm sure she's thinking of it, though, she said as she stared down in defeat. For the next couple minutes, they walked in silence, Demon feeling her eyes wandered over to the weapon he wore on his back until they reached their dorm. Well, this is my stop, she chided as she reached for her dorm lock with her scroll. Oh, great, he thought as he saw where her dorm was. The dorm, one door down from his. She opened the door and saw that the other 3 members of her team were sitting on their beds. Yang looked up from a book she was reading and smiled at RWBY, until her face turned to a scowl when she saw Demon. What is he doing here? She demanded from RWBY. Well, I went to say thanks, and she turned back to see Demon staring at her intently, causing the memories of their deal to come back. He has this really awesome sniper rifle that I thought I should see in case I could come up with an upgrade for Crescent Rose. Demon could tell that the light worked on her sister, but she wasn't done yet. She walked over and shoved past RWBY, stood about an inch from his face. Stay away from my sister, you murderer. She emphasized the last word before slamming the door in his face. Well, that's just rude. He walked a couple of feet and opened the door to see that Kira and Rosaline were still up, somehow managing to figure out how to turn on the Spectre's holographic display, and were watching a movie. As he was about to speak, Rosaline held up a finger and said, "Shh, no talking, best part," before turning her attention back to the movie. He casually walked over and put his weapon on the side of the bed and fell asleep in seconds. A little sleeping drugs won't hurt anyone. Please, someone send in some fan art for a thumbnail for this, because I'm terrible at drawing, and I really need a thumbnail. This is the only thing in terms of kind of fan art that I've ever made, and it was taken from video games and cropped together, and it sucks. Let's just have a good day and send that fan art, please.